The 3D camera tracker real quick. We had a situation this week where a client came to us and said they wanted to have a button changed in a piece of footage that we produced for them. And 3D camera tracker is pretty perfect for that when you have a handheld shot. So with the tracker we were able to create a solid, and with the tracker we were able to create a new piece of text, and that text and solid follow along with the footage really well. So let's get started. First, let's get rid of all the old information so we can start from scratch. So I can show you how I did that. Make sure your tracker dialog is available. If it's not, go up to Window to Tracker. Select your footage and then click Track Camera. It'll start to analyze in the background, which is great because you can continue to work while it's doing that. The effect itself has several options. You want to take a look at those because depending on your footage you may want to change these somewhat in order to have it read your footage better. We're going to leave them as they are because we don't need to change them for this situation, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, great. The camera track is solved. That was pretty quick. The first thing you'll notice is that you're going to have track points all over your footage, and then when you hover over those track points you're going to see this light white triangle configure in between 3 points, which will set the target along the line, if you will, or the angle of the objects in your footage. In our case, it's aligning to the web page pretty well. Up here you can adjust your track points, the size if they're too small. Sometimes they come in small, you can make them bigger, easy to see, and sometimes the target might seem really large and you'll want to adjust that so it's feeling like it fits in the space and you get a good sense of the direction. What we're going to do is we're going to select 2 points over here, hold down the shift key and select 2 points over here. That'll create an angle between those 2 points, and we'll use this target. When you right click you'll see create text from camera, create solid from camera, or create null from camera. In our case we're going to use create solid from camera. Once we do that, that solid will be available to you to create a pre-comp or to use directly. In our case we're just going to use it directly because we're going to use it to mask over or cover up the information that's on our button. So we're going to be adjusting the scale and the rotation of that shape. So I'm just going to speed this up. It takes a few minutes. Just manipulate the solid until it matches the approximate shape of the button without being bigger than the original button. The next thing we're going to do is try to match the color. So let's just make it fit just a little bit better before we interfere with the blur. Go up to Effects, Generate Gradient Ramp, and we'll set the color point on this side to here, and we'll set that side's color. We'll sample from the original button, and we'll set the other color point to the other end of the button, and we'll sample color from that side. At this point you should have a solid that's following your button pretty well. What I'm going to do is just add a little bit of blur to that button to just to soften those edges a little bit. Perhaps in the Gaussian blur, maybe 3 pixels shall do it. Next we'll generate some text. You have a couple of different options in terms of generating this text layer, but what I like to do is go back to the original camera tracker and just find some new points to generate our text, and for that matter we can just use the same points that we used the first time to generate a new target. From that target, we will generate create a text. You'll notice there's no camera because we've already got a camera. So now you've got a great big piece of text there, and what we'll need to do is manipulate that text so it matches our button the way we need to. Again, using the rotation and scale and position properties. And I'm going to just speed this up because you want to tweak this. It takes a few minutes. First thing you're going to do is make it smaller. Then you're going to rotate it in various directions until it looks like it's aligned with the page. Use the word registration and get it centered so it looks like it belongs there. It'll take a few minutes. Okay, for the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to get crazy with the lining up the text. That's something that you can do on your own. But this is the basic idea. You're going to just keep, moving the orientation, the rotation, the scale until the word looks like it's, that it's fitting properly on the page. And then you'll notice, of course, that it follows the movement of the handheld camera pretty well. Now, you'll also notice that, you'll probably notice that the original website was in German, and we actually were changing the word in German, but I just used registration because that was the German word, but that's the English word. So anyway, you'll notice that the text is a little bit more in focus on this side and a little bit out of focus on this side, and we want to do that to this as well. So how you do that is you go to the 3D camera and you go down into the camera options and you turn on depth of field. So immediately it'll get blurry. So what you want to do is adjust the focal distance so that the word becomes sharp again. So you just roll this back until you get the focus that you want. If you hold down the shift key, this focus pull goes a lot faster. So as soon as it gets in focus, you'll notice that actually the whole word's in focus now. In order to force the depth of field, you'll want to crank up the aperture to the pretty high so that you can actually get a sense of the word being in focus on one end and out of focus on the other, which starts to happen right about here. In our case, you might actually also want to cheat the word a little bit just by rotating the word away from you a little bit more, kind of fake rotating it away from you so that the front of the word is actually closer to you than the back of the word. And then of course, going back to the focus, you'll see that the front of the word is actually out of focus too. It's just the back of the word is more out of focus. So just mess with the focus until you feel like the word is out of focus the way that it should be. So the front of the word's a little bit out of focus and the back of the word is kind of a lot out of focus. Just zoom out until you feel like it matches. Once you have the focus dialed in the way you want, you'll see that it's following the original footage pretty well, and it's an actually pretty easy method to do a quick cover-up. Whether that be a sign on the road or some other object in your scene, which you need to mask out. Okay, that's it for today. I hope that helps. I hope that helps you with your project or you learned something, and thanks for watching.